Hello and welcome to another installment of the Zoey demo videos. In today's video, we're going to go over customers, customer groups, and the functionality that you can achieve using these two features. What we're looking at here is the customer list, which you can find under Customers Customer List. This grid is similar to other grids that we've gone over in other videos, but very quickly I do want to point out here the Pending Approval tab. And what this tab will have in it is if your website requires approval for any new account that's registered, those customers are going to go in there and you're going to be able to then approve or deny them. And of course, if they're approved or denied, they'll get an email telling them so. So if we take a look at our customer grid here, we'll open up one of our sample customers, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but this is effectively the screen where you can make all sorts of modifications. I do want to point out a couple of things that we are going to be talking about in the remainder of the video, so it's good foundational knowledge to have. First of all, here there are some overrides, and so what this means is while things can be set at a customer group level, meaning that every customer that belongs to that group will have those settings, you can override these individual features at the actual user level. Same thing with the sales representative, where you can assign a sales representative to the customer group, or you can override it and assign a sales representative to the customer directly. So with that in mind, let's jump over to customer groups and talk about what a customer group is. And within the Zoey platform, a customer group is simply a bucket that holds one or many customers and applies permission settings to those customers within that group, almost like a segmentation, if you will, right? And so you'll notice here I've got the not logged in group. This is the automatic group that's assigned to any visitor that's not logged into your website. And so this lets you create B2C capabilities, right? Because B2C visitors won't be logged in. But for your other customers that are logged in, for example, I've got my general group, my retailer group, my wholesaler group. For each one of those groups, I can assign a customer to that group. And then once that customer is assigned, I'll be able to set all sorts of restrictions and other settings that I can modify at a group level, which is what I'll show you throughout this video. Customer groups can have different tax classes, so you can tax your customer groups differently, and you can also have a login redirect URL, which means that once the customer logs in, they'll be able to automatically be redirected to a specific page on your website. And on that page, you're going to be able to put things like a quick order form, maybe some news and information or special discount codes. So it lets you create a branded experience that once that customer logs in, they can see. If I click on the general group, I'll see some of the things that we talked about, as well as some additional capabilities. So over here we've got restrictions, and this enables you to restrict a customer group to specific languages and currencies. Now I don't have this turned on in my store quite yet, but if I did, what I would see here is a listing of languages and currencies, and I'd be able to check off which ones to use. Same thing for the sales increment ID, so you can actually assign different order IDs, invoices, shipments, credit memos, and quote identifiers per customer group with a prefix and then an order number. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the page to turn this on, and you'll see up here that there's two settings, so I'll actually enable both of them. And what I'll do is now I'll save, and that'll turn on both features, and then I can go back into my other page and refresh it, and I'll see that the capability is now live. So for the order custom increment IDs, I can go here and I can set it to yes, and then I can give it an order prefix, so I can say like general, and then I can set whatever increment ID I want. So let's say I want all these orders to start with 5 and then 7 zeros afterwards. Right, and so I can do that for invoices, credit memos, shipments, and I can do it for quotes as well in the quote settings. I can assign a sales representative to this customer group, and sales representatives can be flagged within the Zoey system as staff accounts, and you can restrict sales representatives to only have access to specific customers, to specific customer groups, or to specific screens within Zoey. So for example, if you only wanted your sales representatives to be able to view the order screen, you can customize it so that they only see that. The other nice thing about sales representatives is that if a customer places an order on the front end, then the attribution to that order will go to that sales representative. If a sales representative creates an order on the back end, they will be assigned the attribution for that order. And if a quote is generated by the customer on the front end, the quote will automatically be routed via email to the sales representative for that customer. Now, there's a few other things that you can do with customer group segmentation now that we've talked about customers and customer groups. The first one is under Setup, Payment, and Shipping Restrictions. You can actually enable specific payment methods and shipping methods to be restricted. So assuming I go here to the enabled and I set it to yes, I'll get a listing of all of the different payment methods that exist within my store. And I can say, for example, for check money order, it's going to be restricted to the wholesalers only. For no information required, I'm going to do the general and the wholesalers. For the purchase order, I'm going to do it for logged in people. And for credit cards, I'm going to set no restrictions. Now you can also override this in the admin so that every single method is allowed for anyone creating a new order under order create new order or quote create new quote. The exact same thing can be done with shipping methods, right? So I've got my 3 defined shipping methods here. I can restrict them in the same manner. Now I can also do things like restrict products. So if I go into the product list and I take a look at, let's say, this particular product, which is restricted to the wholesale group, if I go down to restrictions, you'll see that is restricted is set to yes, and it's set to the wholesale group. Now I can choose multiple groups if I want, or I can just choose one group. I can also set the product to not be restricted at all. The other thing that I can do is I can go into pricing, and I can actually set customer group pricing. So while this product is $1.25, for my wholesalers I can say it's 75 cents. I can also add another group, and I can say that for my retailers it's 50 cents. I can also do things like tier pricing by customer group. So for example, if I buy 5 or more and I'm in the wholesale group, it's not going to be 75 cents, it'll be 60 cents. And everything that you see that I've done here, restricting the customer group for this product, setting the prices, and everything else that we've really gone over in this video so far, that can all be done via CSV and API. So you certainly don't have to use the Zoey admin if you don't want to. Now, another nice thing about the customer group segmentation is the design editor. So what I can actually do here is I can create pages that are restricted to specific customer groups. So, for example, if I wanted the About Us page to be restricted, I can go into the settings of the About Us page, and I can go down here to Page Access Restrictions, and I can enable it, and I can say that only the, let's say, retailer group is able to view this page. And so now what I've effectively done is I've created a restricted page on my site that only a specific customer group can access. So this is just a high-level overview of just some of the features and functionality that you can do with customer groups and customers within the Zoey admin. There's a lot of additional features and functionality. For example, you can create order attributes that are customer group specific, which means that you can modify the checkout and include information that'll only appear for that customer group. You can add text to certain places that only appear if it's a specific customer group. You can set up promotions that only apply to specific customer groups or site-wide sales that discount the items for specific customer groups. Effectively, the list goes on and on and on, but the most important part to remember is that Zoey is a very flexible software, and our architecture allows the software to mold to your business and not the other way around. So I hope that you learned something about customers and customer groups within the Zoey platform, and of course, as always, I'll see you in another video.